Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for this morning. My name is Amanda Hallmark, and I serve as the trainer for the Your DEQ Online platform for Oregon DEQ. We are in DMR reporting in Your DEQ Online for general permits. And I have two colleagues with me that we're super lucky to have all of their expertise in the room with us. Martina Fry and Melissa Kays. They both know our YDO platform really well, but also our water quality programs at DEQ. So excited to bring them to you this morning to talk a little bit about how to use your DEQ Online for your DMR reporting. We are going to present to you in just a little bit here. So Martina will be taking over shortly, but I have a couple things to share with you first about kind of what to expect for this session. So the first thing is that we are recording. So just know that this will be posted to our DEQ external webpage here, no later than next week, but I'm going to aim to get it to you as quickly as possible, especially knowing that we have a holiday week next week coming up. So we will get this posted. And then also just as far as questions are concerned, the best way for you to get a question answered as we move through our presentation is to use the Q&A widget in Zoom. So you will see a little widget that has a question mark and a little conversation bubble. Click on that and you can type your questions in there and we will get them answered as we go along. There will also be time to ask questions during the presentation if you would rather come off mute. So you have a couple different ways. We are definitely here to make sure all of your questions are answered today, and anything we cannot answer, we will work on getting back to you to get that answered. So that is actually all I have for now. So with that, I will pass it on to Martina.
Thank you, Amanda. As she said, my name is Martina Fry, and I am on the water quality data team at DEQ. And I want to tell you about DMRs in your DEQ Online. So just an overview of the presentation. We'll talk about briefly what your DEQ Online is, and then we'll go through DMRs specifically, first of all, finding them in the system, and then breaking them apart to show you what the different pieces are. And then we'll walk through a couple of examples of completing a DMR. And then once we've gone through those examples, I will talk about the guidance and tools and resources that are available for filling out DMRs. And then I'll give you a schedule for what's coming up next, and then we'll have time at the end to answer your questions. So first of all, what is your DEQ Online? For those of you who have not logged in yet, it's a web-based system. It allows you to access our water quality permitting services. You can submit applications for permit coverage or changes to your permit coverage. You can submit permit required reports, including DMRs. And then you can pay your invoices by credit card or e-check, in addition to still being able to pay by a regular check. And it also allows you to access public records directly. So for getting started in your DEQ Online, just minimize this. The first step would be, if you do not already have an account, to go through account registration. So if you Google your DEQ Online, you should be taken right to the first link will be our main page, and there's a link to establish your account. And it gives you instructions on, we have different account types and how to register for each one of those and who that applies to. And then we also have lots of information about how to use your DEQ Online, not just for DMRs, but for finding and paying invoices or submitting various applications. So those are available online as well. So let's focus on DMRs. The first step is finding them in your DEQ Online. And what I'm showing you here right now is the dashboard. So when you log in for the first time, you'll be taken to this dashboard, and it shows various pieces, moving parts that you might have, and allows you to access your permits and so on. And I want to highlight this button in the upper left-hand corner, the two arrows. That's the way that you access the main menu. And the main menu will take you to all the main parts where you need to find things, especially DMRs. So some notes about that. DMRs can be found in different places depending on where you are in the process of working on them. So if you haven't started a DMR yet and you need to find it, one of the menu items is upcoming obligations. And so that's where you'd look if you haven't opened it and saved it yet. If you've worked on a DMR and you've saved it, but you haven't completed it and submitted it yet, it will be in the section called pending submittals. So that's work in progress. And then if the DMR was already submitted and you want to review it, print it, or change it, you would go to the submitted submittals section. So let's look at your DEQ Online directly. I'm logged in here, and this is my dashboard, and I have a lot of upcoming things because I have a lot of examples to show, but yours will probably have fewer things. The main menu button here opens up this sidebar, and here we have the sections that I told you about before: upcoming obligations, pending submittals, and submitted submittals. So let's find a DMR. Go to upcoming obligations. And I'm going to make this small again just so that we can maximize our screen. There's a reminder here up top that says that what you're going to find in the upcoming obligations are only submittal records with the new status, so things that you haven't opened yet. And you can minimize that for more room. And so I have lots of DMR examples here, but the first one that I'm going to show later is 500J permit type. So I can narrow that down by permit type if you have more than one type of permit. And so here are two 500J DMRs, and these are annual DMRs. So we have the one for 2025 that's due in 2026, and then the 2026 reporting year due in 2027. If you have more than this and you still want to narrow it down, you can search by due date. One of my favorites is what's due in the next 60 days, so that you can narrow it down to the one that you just need to fill out now. You can also click on this calendar button and put in an exact date because you know your due date is the same every year. 6. All right, and then you could make this the same too, but here's another way to narrow it down by due date. So that's how you find DMRs. Let's go back to the presentation and we'll talk about what DMRs look like. So just some notes, high-level notes. The DMR is organized by tabs that will be arrayed along the top of the screen. We'll have a basic information tab, everybody gets that. And then depending on your permit type, you'll either have a daily data tab or a summary data tab, not both. And we'll go through examples of filling out a daily and a summary because they're different. And then there's an attachment tab where you can attach either required spreadsheets or lab reports, other things. A review tab just to make sure you filled out everything that you need to. And then a submission tab that has the certification statements and that kind of thing. As a guide to what you really need to fill out, because there's a lot of information in a DMR, the outlined, the fields that are outlined in red are required, and you cannot submit your DMR unless all of these required fields have data in them. And then along the top of those tabs that I mentioned, anything that has a red exclamation point will indicate that there is an incomplete required field on that tab. So you can easily go back and know where you need to fill things in. So as I mentioned, there are two types of DMRs. There's the daily data type and the summary data. They both collect monitoring data, but in different ways. So the daily data tab allows you to report individual sample results. So on January 8th, you took this sample and here are the results, and it's mapped to the date. That screen has a calendar that allows you to select one or more sampling dates. And for each sampling date that you select, a column will appear that allows you to fill in the monitoring information for that date. And there is an optional copy paste feature if you have a lot of data to enter that can be a shortcut for you to enter your data. And then for the summary data tab, instead of reporting individual sample results, you roll that information up into summary statistics for the full reporting period. So, a monthly average, for example, or the maximum value for the month or the year. And so to enter data in the summary data tab, the substances or parameters are listed in rows, and you click on each row to open up the screen to enter the data that you collected for that parameter. There is also a copy paste feature here that works a little differently than the daily data copy paste. And I should note that daily data is required when you're reporting summary statistics. We have provided spreadsheet templates for you to use to collect your daily data, and then you can attach that on the attachment tab. So I've listed in orange here the different permit types that have the daily data type of DMR, and then those that have the summary data DMR. All right, so let's go to your DEQ Online and edit one of these. So we'll start with a daily data type DMR for the 500J permit, and I've already found the one for 2025. To open it, you click on this Edit Submittal button that looks like a pencil. All right, now let's orient ourselves to this page. So as I mentioned, the tabs are along the top part here, and we can see those red exclamation points indicating that there are required fields that have not been filled in. On an important feature here is this Get Information button in the upper right. If you click on that button, which I'll do right now, you can download instructions for how to complete this particular DMR, so for the 500J. So it's very specific to the fields that you'll see on this DMR. It walks you through all the different tabs. What if you need to add additional locations? And then for each different parameter or substance, all the details that you need to, if you encounter, different situations like it doesn't apply or that kind of thing. And so that's available from every screen by clicking on the Get Information button. All right, so this basic information tab, the two required fields are signatory name and signatory phone number. So I'll just put in mine. If you have any comments about the reporting that applies to sort of the whole DMR, the whole reporting period, you can add them here, but that's optional. So moving on to the daily data tab, here, this is where you'll probably spend most of your time. Along the left-hand side, we have different groups of monitoring. So K and L for this particular permit. The monitoring for K is called boiler blowdown, and so this is the main monitoring for this type of permit. We have the facility name and address and permit number, and then the reporting period here, just to double check that you're in the right one. And then there are notes here. They're called DMR comments, and these notes help you determine how to fill out each row of the DMR. We have a couple of different types of flow reporting for boiler blowdown, and so we needed to distinguish them as discharge to surface water, O, discharge to land application, P, or discharge to ponds, Q. And the main feature of the daily data screen is this calendar. And so this allows you to select the different monitoring dates that you have. And this is a whole reporting year. So it'll bring you to the calendar for the month that you're in right now. It shows that today's the 16th. And I want to point out that the future dates here, even though this is in the reporting period, they're grayed out because you can't really add data for a future date. You don't have that data yet. So scrolling down below the calendar, here's a list of the parameters that are required to be reported according to Schedule B of the permit. And like I said, there were 3 different types of flow that are required for reporting. And so the C comments O is defined up here, discharge to surface water. So, and then P and Q. And then, so we've got also 2 types of pH, one for discharges to surface waters and one for discharges to ponds. And then if we look at this other set of DMR or set of monitoring, this is one parameter, chlorine, used as a biocide. And so we have one parameter here, chlorine, and there is a note above that says that if chlorine isn't used as a biocide, then fill it in with a no data indicator code. So just some instructions there to help you fill it out. So let's go through entering boiler blowdown data. The first thing we want to do is select the dates that we monitored. And I want to share with you that I have some data here. Since it's the end of the year, we'll be entering data for the entire 12 months of 2025. And so these are my sample dates. And so what I want to do is go starting with January. So we'll just zoom back to January. And we'll select those dates that we have. Um, and for this year, we have to do all the data entry at the end of the year because we're just starting. But there's nothing stopping you from getting your January results, laboratory results in February and entering them in your DMR immediately. You don't have to submit it or anything, but you don't have to save all the data entry till the end of the year. You can enter it and save it and then come back to it and save it for the following month. So once you select your first date, the calendar shrinks, but you can just click on that yellow bar to open it up again. And then we'll go to the second month and the third month and pick our sample dates so that we have, oh, I should say that every time you click a sample date, a column appears with that date at the top. And so we're basically building the form to collect the data that we have from the lab. So I will establish all of the rows, all of the columns that I need to do this reporting. All right. Okay. And I should have 12 columns here. It would be challenging to fill these in individually for all 12 months. But if we have our data organized already, we can pretty easily go in and enter that information. Our dilution factor is 12, our flow is 10, and so on and so forth, and basically fill this in. It's feasible to do this manually when you're doing it 1 month at a time, but I want to show you if when you're doing it at the end of the year, for all 12 months, that you can use the copy paste feature to make this easier. So to access that, from the yellow box where we have the calendar, you click on the copy paste button here, and it gives you this interface to do the copy paste. The first thing you want to do is click to download the CSV template. So this will allow you to organize your data in a way that it pastes in correctly based on the order of these substances. And it's important to note that you'll want to set this form up with the dates before you go to the copy paste so that you have these fields in here to populate. You don't want to just go straight to copy paste because then there won't be any fields to copy paste into. So let's click on this download CSV template and we open it up from our default download folder. And it looks like this. And so here are all the dates along the top. I'm just going to maximize these rows a little bit so we can see everything. So we have January through December along the columns here, and then the rows are the different substances. So this very much matches the data that I had already compiled. And it's important that we use this template because the order of these substances is important to maintain. You don't want to paste your pH data into the flow fields, so definitely use this order. So you'll want to use this to organize your data, and I've already done so for demonstration purposes here. So this is the same spreadsheet essentially. And so to use copy paste after you've assembled this, you'll want to select the entire block of data, ignoring the first row and the first column. So just the data that you want to enter. And so you'll copy this. It did not work. Copy this. And then go over to the YDO or your DEQ Online interface and put your cursor in here and then paste. And it pastes that data in and it gives you a preview showing it in a table format. And so if you think that looks good and you don't have anything that's obviously missing or weird, then you click the import data button and you click OK. And what it's asking you here is it okay to update what you've already entered? And so you'll click OK. And then you'll see that all of these required fields are now filled in with data. So just to give it a glance, just want to make sure that there aren't any errors showing. That would be like compliance checks or something like that. And it looks pretty good. If you have a mistake, say you had an errant decimal place here that changed 26 to 2.6 and you didn't mean to do that, and it flags a violation, it will highlight it in red and say compliance check. This needs to be less than 4 or else it's a violation. So in this case, this was just a mistaken decimal place, and it highlighted it so that I'd know to double check and make sure I meant to enter 2.6, not 26. So that's a nice feature to just make sure that that things are being pasted in the right fields and that they're not flagging violations that shouldn't exist. Another thing that you want to note is sometimes your lab reports will say that a value is less than or is non-detect, and your lab report will tell you what the detection limit is. So say for total suspended solids, we have a non-detect value and your detection limit is 0.01. You would enter your detection limit in this field here where you'd normally do the sample value, and you would change this operator from equals to less than. And so that's the way that you're supposed to report non-detects. And sometimes there's what's called a J flag value that's between the detection limit and the quantitation limit. And in that case, you'd want to enter the quantitation limit, say it was 0.02, and use the E for estimated. And all of this is detailed in our DMR user's guide, and as far as how to interpret your laboratory results and enter them here. So just wanted to show you some examples of how to best represent your laboratory data. So once we've determined that this copy and paste looks good, then we can click save, just always a good idea. And I want to point out that now that we've entered all the required fields here, the red exclamation point is missing from this part of the form. So that means we're good to go. So we'll switch over to the chlorine as a biocide. And I won't go through entering this data again because we've just done that, but I want to show you how you can quickly mark a form as not applicable. Say you didn't use chlorine as a biocide during the year. You can easily click the no discharge button up here and then choose a reason. In this case, we'll use conditional monitoring not required this period because we did not use chlorine. And that grays out the form so that you do not have to enter any data. So that's a nice feature if you had no discharge, if your operation was shut down. There are several different reasons that you can basically mark a form not applicable. So anyway, now we've got both of these daily data pieces completed, and we'll move over to the attachment tab. And I'm going to bring this sidebar back just so that we can take a look at the attachment types that are available for this DMR. So because we already entered the daily data with the individual samples reported, we don't have to attach a daily data spreadsheet. But if you do have non-compliance during the month, whether that's an effluent limit exceedance or you failed to sample at the required frequency, or maybe you did not meet one of the narrative conditions of your permit, you'll want to include a non-compliance reporting form. And for your convenience, we've included a link to that form here. So you can just click on this and open a PDF. And let's do that. And again, it goes to your downloads folder. And so this is the form that you'd fill out. And it basically has like, what are the causes? What are your corrective actions? And you can save this to your computer after you've completed it. And then you'll want to attach it. So there are two ways to do that. The first is to click on this yellow bar here to click to upload. And it opens up a dialog box for you to navigate to the spot on your computer where you saved that form. And in this case, I've got it here, non-compliance reporting form. So I'll select that and click open, and it shows that form as an option here now in my list. But we're not done yet because for each attachment that we include, we need to identify what type of attachment it is. So we click on this yellow bar and it opens up a window where we can select the document type. In this case, it's the non-compliance reporting form. But if you were attaching something else, some supplemental information, a cover letter, that kind of thing, you could choose other. In this case, we'll choose non-compliance reporting form. And now there's no error messages anymore and it looks good. If you have attached this and you need to change it or delete it, there is this red trash can button here to remove it. So you can just click that and remove the attachment. And another way to upload an attachment is to do a drag and drop. So we can just take this file and drag it over here and it attaches it. And then once again, we have to identify what type of attachment it is. So I'll save that. And we'll move on to the review tab. So the review tab is just the last look at whether we've completed all the required fields. Now we don't have any red exclamation points here, so that's a good hint, but you'll also get a green check mark if everything is completed. And this tells you which attachments you have included. So it's just sort of a snapshot of whether you're good to go. And then moving on to the submission tab, this is only available for responsible officials. So if you've registered as a consultant, like you are assisting someone in completing a DMR, this will not be active for you. So if that's the case and you've completed the DMR up to this point, you can let your responsible official know that they should log in and find this partially completed DMR in the pending submittals area. But if you are the responsible official, you would basically read through the certification. You would click the box to accept that. And then when you're establishing your account, you'll have security questions and a PIN number. So you'll want to keep track of those. And I will enter mine here. And then once all these fields are complete, this will go from gray to blue and you can submit. And once that's complete, you will get a confirmation page that allows you to save either print or save a PDF receipt. And then it's got the date that you submitted it and the time, and then an option to again print a receipt or a layout of your submittal form. So if you want to save this as like your submitted DMR somewhere, you can do that. It also tells you what attachments you have. And then the responsible official will also receive an email confirmation with the same type of information that's just automatically generated by the system. So since we have just completed that, I want to show you where we can find it now that it's done. So we'll go to submitted submittals and it will default to the last 30 days. So in that case, great, we submitted it today and we want to change it or take a look at it today, then it's here. But sometimes the last 30 days, we want to look at something that we submitted 3 months ago. So you can choose a relative date, show me everything that we've submitted in the last 3 months, or you can click on this calendar and put in a date range or a specific date to narrow it down further. All right. And then if you would like to, let's change this back to, or let's just find our DMR here. If you made a mistake and you want to update your DMR that you've already submitted, you'd come to submitted submittals and search for it. And here's the one we just filled out. And so click on this view submittal detail, the orange eye. And it brings you to this submittal summary page. And down on the bottom in this yellow box is an option to revise your DMR. So you can click on this revision button and this will not activate until you include a reason. So in this case, need to change attachment if you attached for the wrong month or something like that. So once you've included a reason with this revision checkbox here, then you can send this request in and it's automatically approved. Um, you can revise a DMR at your leisure without our approval. A copy is saved in the system as an archive of what you originally submitted. And then you would go to the pending submittals area to see that submittal back in your queue, essentially, as work in progress. And so now it's marked as a revision, and you can basically go in and click this Edit Submittal button again and make any changes you need to whether it's changing the data or in this case, changing the attachment. You can delete this and change it. And then the last bit would be to go through these questions again and resubmit. So that's how you would revise a DMR. All right, let me just go back here and I want to show you next the how to fill out the summary DMR type. So let's go back to your DEQ Online and we'll search for a 200J DMR, which is the summary data type that's due in January. So again, I'm going to search for submittal type. And this particular DMR is monthly, due annually. So we have one DMR for each month of 2025. And I wanted to narrow it down to just the DMRs that are due in January. So I believe that's the case here. The due date is in 2026. So I have 8 of them here. Should be more than that, but anyway, so you can use these fields to narrow it down if you have more than you're expecting to find. But in this case, since we have 12 here, these will have to be filled out individually prior to January 2026. And I encourage folks who have this permit type to not save all the data entry until the end of the year. So when you get your results for January, you can enter it in January or in January or February, and then move on to the next one the following month so that you're not stuck with lots of data entry at the end of the year. So let's open up this 200J DMR. And again, it looks very similar. So we'll put in our basic information here, the comments if desired. And then we'll switch over to the summary data tab. Again, we have 2 types of monitoring. The first one is filter backwash, and the second one is reservoir cleaning that results in discharges to surface water. And so, maybe you didn't do any reservoir cleaning during the month, and so, we've separated this out so that if that doesn't apply, you can use the no discharge box. So something that's different from the daily data tab is that there is not the calendar here. There is still a copy paste feature, but it works a little bit differently. So I'm going to minimize that so we can look at the different substances listed here. And for each of these substances, you'll want to click on the row with the substance name, and it opens up a form that highlights the field that you need to fill in. So in this case, the permit asks for the maximum total residual chlorine for that month, that reporting month. And here it specifies milligrams per liter. There's no limit on it. It's just a report only. And then the frequency of analysis is twice per month, RAB, that kind of thing. This form allows you to add comments. If you have a comment about total residual chlorine results in particular, you can add the comment here as part of that substances record. And so what we're looking for here, since we've got 2 samples per month, is the maximum value that you recorded in the month. And I do have data to put in here, but basically you would click through here and then put in your data, say it's that, and then move on to the next one and open up flow. And here it's asking for monthly average. So if you have just one value, this is a monthly. If you only measured flow once during the month, then you would enter that. You you would enter that value here. If you had, say, 3 or 4 measurements, you would take the average of that measurement outside of your DEQ Online and enter that average result here. And so you can go through each one of these and enter that information. If say you didn't irrigate and you want to mark this as not applicable, you would put in a no data indicator code, NODI code. And those are listed down here in a table on the sidebar, and you can access this sidebar from any screen on the DMR. And these are listed with how EPA labels them, but there's lots more information in our DEQ user's guide for DMRs that explains when to use these and when not to. Some of them, like failed to sample, required analysis not conducted, that would flag a violation. So you want to be careful that you're using the right NODI code. And in this case, if we did not irrigate, then we would want to use NODI code *9. And this asterisk is very important because we're using the same field for reporting data as we are for reporting NODI codes. So if we just entered 9, then this would look like 9 million gallons per day. It needs to be NODI code 9. All right, and then as you're entering these, the pink will turn to white to show that you do not have any required fields that need to be filled in. So we'll just put in a couple more data points here. For pH, we have a range for the limit, a lower range and an upper range. So you need to enter your lowest value that recorded during the month in this field, and the highest in the second field for daily maximum. So it tells you, basically put in the minimum in this box and the maximum in this box. If you exceeded a limit, say you have 9.2 for your upper pH value, it will highlight this with a compliance check to make sure that you did not mistype that number and that you meant to report a limit violation. We'll leave this as 7.2. Okay, so that's how you do manual data entry for a summary DMR. Now let's look at batch edit. And I also want to note that to help you with managing your data for this annual reporting, we have designed a spreadsheet that's specific to the 200J DMR. It's a workbook that should make your life easier and allow you to enter data using the batch edit feature much more readily. So I just want to point out that once again, for batch edit, you'll click to download the CSV template here and open it up, and it looks like this. So it's much smaller, more compact than the one for the daily data. And again, you have the substances listed in the rows and the quantity or loading or concentration here along the columns. Anything that has 5 asterisks does not need to be filled in. So that's just a placeholder. And you can see the data that I already entered here. But let me show you what it looks like if I hadn't entered data already. Sorry about that. Going to unenter data because it's important to see what it looks like without anything completed. All right. So we'll download that template again. All right, this is what it looks like when you haven't started yet. So anything that has a statistic and a unit needs to be replaced with the value that you want entered in that box. So for chlorine, daily maximum in milligrams per liter, we've got 0.05. For flow, it was 0.3. Irrigation flow was NODI code *9. This was 0.01, and then we had 6.8 to 7.2. So again, we'll highlight just the data that we entered, not the first row and the first column. We'll copy that and we'll paste it into the paste box. And it completes this table here. If it looks good, then you can click import data. And now these pink rows have gone to white, and you'll just want to double check that the right values went into the right places. It's just in case there's something weird happened. It's not necessarily highlighted in pink, but you might get um, your total suspended solids value in the pH if something's weird and or out of place. So it's worth double checking. Moving over to this other DMR, it does keep this same data that you just copied and pasted and so you want to delete that out to avoid confusion. We will not enter data for this one since we just demonstrated it, and we'll just use the no discharge box and say that there was no, that was conditional monitoring because we did not complete reservoir cleaning. All right. And so I did mention that there is a spreadsheet attachment. Let me show you what that looks like for the 200J permit. So you can download this from the sidebar here. It is linked here. And so if you click on that link, it will open, just the same way that all the other ones do in your downloads folder. And it looks like this. It has all the days of the month listed out here as columns, and then the substances are listed the way that you would see them on the screen in your DEQ Online. So this is where you can, use this spreadsheet when you're compiling your information from your laboratory reports and your bench sheets or other field observations that you have. And so this is a good way to track your information as you're collecting it. And then over here on the right, we have designed this spreadsheet to report, give you the maximum value for chlorine that you have for the month, and then your average flows. So it basically calculates the summary statistics for you based on the data that you entered. And so you can skip downloading that CSV template and just fill this out and use this as the copy and paste. So if we wanted to do that for our second DMR, I will just show you that it works. And we'll use the batch edit here. And that looks good. We'll import the data. And it has put all of our values in the right place. Double check the pH looks good too. So we designed this spreadsheet to make your life easier. And also because this is your reporting summary data and you'll want to attach your daily data, this will be a good way to just use this as the attachment for each DMR. So let's move on to the attachment tab and we'll demonstrate that again. I want to show you something that I think is kind of useful. If you try to attach a spreadsheet that is open on your computer, it will give you an error message. And that's to make sure that you're not attaching something that you forgot to save and it's an older version. So you'll want to make sure you close that spreadsheet before you try to attach it. Let's try again. And now that it's closed, it will attach. And this is a required attachment here. Let's move this. And so you'll want to make sure that when you're identifying the attachment type that you choose this one, the 200J DMR spreadsheet attachment or whatever your permit name is, so that it marks that required attachment complete. If you called this other, then it would still be asking for the required attachment. And so you just need to make sure that you label it properly. Okay. So let's look at the review tab. Everything is green, so that looks good. And we can move on to submission. And this certification statement and the security questions are the same as the previous times that we've done this. All right, and then we'll submit. All right. And so once again, You can print your submittal form if you want to, or save a receipt, and you'll have the responsible official will have an email in their inbox confirming that this was submitted. Okay. So we have guidance available. So not only are we recording this and we'll put it online, but we also have a whole help desk page or help page. And what you'll be looking for when you go to this help page is the NPDES and WPCF wastewater permits in your DEQ Online. So if you click on that link, you'll get to all sorts of user guides for submitting applications. The DMR user's guide is there too. And you'll find our webinar recordings, and when we have frequently asked questions to post, we'll put them there. All right, and then I mentioned the user's guide. It looks like this. It's got detailed instructions for completing and submitting DMRs of the daily DMR type and the summary DMR type. And we've got these video demonstrations. Like I said, there's frequently asked questions. We've already taken some questions that we've received from previous folks who have started reporting. And for example, we created those spreadsheets that you can use to track your daily data and then use it as an attachment. And we're trying to learn as we go and make sure that you have the resources that you need to make this as easy as possible. And our Your DEQ Online help desk is amazing. If you submit a request through that help desk, we have folks doing triage who will identify it as a DMR question, say, and send it to my team. And we usually respond the same day and get your questions answered. Sometimes it's an easy thing that we've seen before, and we can just send you an email. But if we need to, we can also set up a call to walk you through things. So looking ahead, today's webinar, annual DMR's webinar, this will be recorded and posted hopefully prior to the holidays. And we also know that you will be working through these before the January 15th deadline. So we've set up office hours the week before. This is a Zoom link and you can just drop in. You don't need to register. So if you're filling this out and you have a question, please drop in and ask us anything. And then we'll be giving, if you have permits with annual reports as well, we'll be giving a webinar on that in mid-January. Those are usually due in February, or at the end of January. So we'll be walking through annual reports, which is a different process than DMRs. And we have another office hour scheduled for February 5th that will focus on annual report completion. And then, like I said, the help desk support is ongoing. You can access that anytime. And we man it during the workday, but you can submit it anytime you want, and we will get to it as soon as possible. All right, now it's time for questions.
Great, thanks, Martina. So we did answer a couple questions as we went along. They were just around registration. So Erin, hopefully the responses did answer what you were looking for. But I will go ahead and invite folks to raise your hand if you'd like to come off mute. I have the capability to unmute you on my end, so you can ask your question, or if you want to continue to ask things through the Q&A, that's great too. I'll also say all of those great resources that Martina just talked about, I did go ahead and link in the chat. So if you just need a direct link to some of those things, including the help desk form, that's all linked in the chat. So let's just take a second here to give folks time to think through their questions and raise hands. Give it another second here. I'm not seeing any activity yet, folks. And that's no problem at all if you don't have questions yet. You're just maybe getting a first peek at what it looks like. And as you dive in, we acknowledge that you may start to develop more questions. So that's why we do try to offer all of the resources that we've shared with you today.
Oh, and the DMRs are in there now.
Oh, that's good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you can take a look and they're not due for another month. So get a feel for what we just learned and how it looks on your end. And if you have any questions, feel free to submit them through the help desk.
Awesome. Yeah, so we don't have anything that popped up, so I think that's a good ending point for us. Thanks everybody for joining us, and hopefully things go smoothly for you as you do work through those DMRs, but we are certainly here if you need assistance along the way. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining.